Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court Martial Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay-Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial Champion, Sean Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the best professional wrestling podcast on the planet Earth and all throughout the galaxy, the Court Martial Podcast. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, about to bring to you an incredible episode of ACPW, and of course, alongside that, you got the National Wrestling League's World Cup, the second day of the World Cup. It's our fantasy booking series, and I can't do it alone, because with me by my side, as always, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, my friend?
So I'm doing this show after I just did 300-pound squat and a 200-pound bench. What are you men doing? So
you're definitely sore, but it's a good sore.
See, this is what peak performance looks like.
That's right. That's right, and it's only going to get better from there. The best thing about having a peak is knowing that you have no peak.
Right, but speaking of peaks and valleys, we need to go to you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. You know, this was an incredibly hot day today. It was 90 degrees. It was humid. I was sweating reds from every pore in my body for the last 3 hours. I got home. I took a shower. I thought about my life choices, and then I came down here into the Colonial Dungeon where it's nice and cool to provide you the hottest professional wrestling programs up to date. Skylar, here we are halfway through the year. How are you feeling about Season 3 of ACPW and NWL before we get started?
We're definitely going places. I'm happy with certain things. I'm unhappy with other things. But overall, I'm glad we've been able to do most of what we've been wanting to do.
I agree. I think we've both kind of hit our strides booking-wise as far as knowing what we want to do, but also doing the improvisation of yes and coming up with different layers for what we've been doing the past 3 years. I've had a blast doing this every single month for the past 2.5 years. Actually, 2 years and a month as of June. So it's been a pretty wild ride being able to mox those proverbial mental guns without Singapore canes and thumbtacks.
Because clearly you need to add weapons to every single match in order to make it interesting.
Yeah, let me flick myself in the head to bleed. That's going to get them going.
Ooh.
Yeah, remember that?
About the terrible modern booking, we need to go to our booking.
That's right. Now, I'm going to lead off here today with ACPW episode 24, and the reason being, next month, our August show is the Midsummer Showdown out of Orlando, Florida. Gonna be a great time. Come and buy some tickets and have yourself a merry little August. And it's gonna be a hell of a show. Can't wait for it. But we have to get there first. We're in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for ACPW episode 24. And we're going to start, if you are ready, good sir.
Well, we can start, but before we begin, and it bears repeating, fuck you, Philadelphia.
That's right. Well, and you be the judge whether my booking exemplifies that notion, but let's just get right into it. We start with a matchup. It is Mickie James versus Marty Bell.
Okay, this is a weird match.
How long do you think this match goes?
6 minutes.
It is 6 minutes exactly. Good job, Skylar.
Thank you.
Off to a good start. And the finish to this is fairly simple. Mickie James makes the comeback, hits a jumping DDT like she does for the pinfall. Real simple.
I feel sad Mickie James isn't as highly recognized as... she's recognized, but she's not... Like, she should be in that Trish Stratus Lita tier, and
I agree.
She is.
Yeah, well... That many years of Impact will do that to you, unfortunately. But for her work...
Was the pun intended?
Yes. Absolutely.
That was a brilliant pun, man.
Thank you.
Give credit to you for that.
And so then JR goes into the ring, and Mickie James, who's just fresh off her match, and JR goes, well, Mickie, congratulations on your big win. And now I heard that there was something you had to get off your chest here in regards to what happened last week, Alexa Bliss gaining that upset win against you and Camille joining Alexa Bliss. And Mickie James says something to the effect of, because you got to remember, folks, I'm doing these promos, but really it'd be them doing promos to the ilk of what I'm trying to get across. Sometimes better than how I get it across. Mickie,
right, because they're the professionals. We're just the amateurs.
That's right. And so Mickie James basically says, you know, I've dealt with a lot of people in my life, and I've seen a lot of cowards in my life. And Alexa Bliss, congratulations. You done exposed yourself to be a coward. You couldn't beat me fair and square, and you knew it. So you had to go get Camille to join your side to get yourself a victory. But that's not going to be how it goes at Midsummer Showdown, because I've got it on fair hand that you and I are going to step into the ring again. And Camille, you put your nose where it didn't belong. I can't let that stand. So if you go in and you try to help, I'm going to make sure you get a country fried ass woman.
Don't try again.
I'm leaving that in. That's a great cut. Anyway, Camille, you stuck your nose where it didn't belong, and I'm going to make sure that if you try to interfere, you're going to get a country fried ass whooping, because that's how it goes in outlaw country. God, I was on fire, and then I'm going to give you a country fried ass woman. Wow.
I mean, that sounds delicious.
I don't know if it sounds delicious.
All you get is a couple of scrambled eggs and maybe some bacon, some pancakes.
JR's in the ring. He could probably bring the barbecue sauce. So in any event, so Mickie James calling out Alexa Bliss and Camille for their actions the week before, challenging them at Midsummer Showdown. Just a good babyface promo, stating how pissed Mickie is at the circumstances at hand.
You need to cut this type of promo because Mickie James, she has to have energy going into this matchup, and you have to give her that babyface fire promo just to get people excited for it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And this is not a women's title matchup, but this is a women's matchup. So it's not like on these bigger shows, I'm only having the women's title as the women's match, but I'm trying to give some context and backstory that still fits the framing of my format to make an undercard women's match mean something.
Right, and not just throwing it on there for the sake of throwing it on there.
Right. Now, we move on to Tony Schiavone, who's in the back. It says, hello, my name is Tony Schiavone. I am the backstage ring announcer for ACPW, and I am here alongside MJF. Now, Max, 2 weeks ago at Melee, we saw what happened to you as far as the cameraman taking you out. That ended up being Bryan Danielson and Jim Cornette, of course, pushing Jeff Cobb to the next round. So what are your thoughts? Here we go now, going into what has been a very tumultuous time for you. Of course, you weren't here last week. Would you like to explain your absence? First of all, Tony, it is great to be here where the fans are so passionate in Philadelphia. I haven't been to Philly in a long time, but they know just how much blood and gore can permeate professional wrestling. Some people are scumbags who do it, and some people are professionals, like I am. Now, Bryan Danielson and Jim Cornette, they are the scum. And they've proven themselves to be scum with every nefarious action they've taken. Everything that Jim Cornette's done. I mean, who does that? Who dresses up as a woman and hits him with a brick in a purse? It's 2022. Do you have no standards? But speaking of standards, I hear that Bryan Danielson is supposed to be the standard, the GOAT, because he's got a big beard. Well, I'm not afraid of somebody like Bryan Danielson because I get excited at the prospect of the greatest wrestler, the greatest technical mastermind of his time coming to ACPW. In fact, I want to be the first man he fights for real. I know he's got a match coming up next. I'm looking forward to it. But hear my words, Danielson, and I don't care whether you bring Cornette or not, because I know deep down you're a man of better honor than what you're doing with Jim Cornette and the cult of Cornette. But at Midsummer Showdown, Orlando, Florida, MJF, Bryan Danielson, and you can prove to me that can enter your brain, because not a whole lot enters your brain considering the amount of concussions you've had. But it doesn't matter to me, Brian, because I respect you and I can't wait to get into the ring with you, because deep down inside, whether you want to be nefarious with the cult of Cornette or be the man that we all know you are, you know deep down that I'm better than you, and you know it.
Well, that's very interesting. It's weird a little bit that you have MJF as a babyface because we've never seen it in real life. You kind of have to play around with it a little bit.
It's true.
But I like this because this is MJF, who clearly has a problem getting his emotions out, and the best way to get his emotions out is by talking down his opponent, whoever it is.
Right. That's what we know him to do. And part of what this is recognizing how the fans were responding to MJF, where, yeah, he's getting heat, but everybody likes him so goddamn much that he was really starting to get cheered. But if he started doing things differently, people wouldn't respond to it. So this is a very unique situation where what he's saying isn't necessarily babyface material, but it's his delivery, it's the affection that he's getting from the fans, and the way that he treats and respects the fans, and really is respecting Bryan Danielson here. Like, I'm cutting you down, but I'm also building you up. Like, I know you're better than this. Come fight me and be better than this.
Because remember that story that Chris Jericho has always told?
About how he invented AEW?
No, this was back when Chris Jericho was good. But I remember Chris Jericho, I think he was in WCW at the time, and he was backstage, and I think it was Bad News Brown. I don't remember who exactly it was, but I think it was Bad News Brown. They came up to him and said, "Hey, I listened to that promo you cut earlier where you were talking down your opponents. Stop doing that. Because if you keep talking down your opponent, then if you beat them, then it doesn't mean anything. And if you lose to them, then it's humiliating. Talk up your opponent, make them sound impressive, and then when you beat them, it means something. And if you lose to them, well, it's not that bad of a loss."
Right. And the funny thing is all that MJF really did to cut Danielson down was say that he's concussion prone. But he said, "Oh, this is supposedly the greatest technical wrestler of his time. I got to get into the ring with him. You're purportedly the GOAT. Well, I want to be the one facing the GOAT." That excites me. You know, he does really put over Danielson while cutting down Danielson in this promo, which is going to set this whole thing up very nicely for Midsummer Showdown, methinks.
Me agree.
Now, speaking of Bryan Danielson, guess what's next? It's
Daniel Bryanson's first match?
It's the debut of Bryan Danielson. It is Bryan Danielson versus Trevor Mann.
I don't think Trevor Mann's going to go too... Well, go ahead.
How long do you think this match goes?
I'd give it 7 minutes.
It's going 5. I was going to give this more time because Trevor Mann is definitely capable, but I want Bryan Danielson to still look like he can get things done in short order when he wants to. The finish of this matchup is obviously Danielson dominates pretty much from the beginning, but Trevor Mann makes a little flurry of a comeback, hits Danielson with a surprise leg, goes up to hit a 630, goes for the 630. Danielson just rolls out of the way, and when he rolls out of the way, down goes Trevor Mann. He ricochets up and over, like he does a big old flop, and when he does the flop, Danielson's right there to lock in the label lock, and Trevor Mann has no choice but to tap.
That would be a really fun match in real life.
It would.
It would be real fun.
It'd be quick, but it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I chose this finish, and this is something I want to just keep in the minds of the people, I did not want Bryan Danielson to cheat to win in his first match, especially not against a guy like Trevor Mann. You need to, even though Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, is very well established as an individual, in ACPW canon, you have to start him out doing what you've said that he does. So this is going to be a clean matchup. There's not going to be a whole lot of healing except him being arrogant and cocky, kind of like he was in AEW before, Moxley went and ruined that.
You don't have to cheat if you're a heel all the time because there are certain ways around that.
Exactly.
Mainly if you're brutal, if you're cocky or arrogant, if there are ways to get heat without having to cheat.
Yeah, exactly. And Danielson, we've seen, is an expert at that. So I think this is going to be, this is a good demonstration. Danielson, who is not accompanied by Cornette, mind you. Another piece of that puzzle. He just did it by himself, but he's still a heel. And also, I want to keep Danielson still kind of as his own entity, even though he was a hired gun. Just so it's not like he has to be a part of angles for the Cult of Cornette all the time.
Just because you're part of a stable doesn't mean that your stablemates have to be with you all the time.
Right. Exactly.
That's another thing that's kind of a little annoying, especially when AEW has so many people around ringside for no reason.
That's also something, if you look at the 70s and 80s with managers, they would all have like separate careers, basically. And the only common denominator was that the manager would come out with them. But it didn't necessarily mean they were all together in the group at the same time while doing the same things. And I've actually tried with the Cult to retain that kind of idea, where they've all done separate stuff. Like, you haven't really seen FTR get involved in a whole lot of Jeff Cobb matches.
Because you don't need to. Especially, it really depends on the context of who is in that stable. Does Jeff Cobb really need backup? He's his one-man army.
Yeah. But
Daniel Bryan is a really damn good wrestler. He doesn't need backup.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, with the exception of Jeff Cobb, because we've thrown that into question now, given just the story that we've, the angle that we've put together. But now, we are finished with Danielson and Trevor Mann, and we go to a break and come back, Matt Striker and Taz, and Matt says, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go into the office of Arn Anderson as he is going to announce some of the matchups that are prepared and ready for the Midsummer Showdown in Orlando. Arn? And Arn comes in, Arn's in his office. We've got a camera back there and goes, ladies and gentlemen, Philadelphia, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you being here. And we're going to appreciate each and every one of you in Orlando, Florida. Come August show, our August show, the Midsummer Showdown is going to be a wonderful time. Tickets are already on sale, and they are going fast, so get them while you can. And some of the matches that we are going to have on our show, we are going to have Cody defending his ACPW belt, although we have not, we do not have a challenger as of yet, but we are going to find one out later on tonight. Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk. After the actions of last week, we have decided that these two will compete with a no time limit matchup. So if they go 75 minutes, they go 75 minutes. We are not getting a draw this time. Next up, as you heard at the beginning of the show, we have Mickie James going one-on-one with Alexa Bliss with Camille in the corner. We have a rematch from May Melee from the second round of the tournament, as Jeff Cobb will be going one-on-one thanks to a request put in last week. Jeff Cobb one-on-one against Walter. We have the team of FTR, speaking of, going up against the Varsity Blondes after FTR has demanded a rematch after they got caught with a loss at May Melee. And because of the impressive standing and showing that we saw last week with Damian Priest nearly defeating Brock Lesnar, he is going to be in action. We have put him on the card, and he will be going one-on-one against Shorty G. And there's going to be much more. This is not the only thing we've got. Of course, the Women's Championship. We are going to have a number one contenders match tonight. And the number one contenders match is going to be Britt Baker and Serena Deeb. And the winner of that will face the Women's Champion Shayna Baszler at Midsummer Showdown as well. So there is a lot going on with ACPW. We're excited to have you there. And wait, who's here? Who's there? They know I'm doing this segment. What's going on? And in walks Jim Cornette with a stack of papers.
Oh?
Hello, Mr. Anderson. Now I see that you have not been returning my phone calls. And of course, you haven't been returning my emails. And of course, I've been tweeting at you. And of course, you have done nothing about it. So unfortunately, now we have to do things the hard way. And I would like to hand these to you. And there's 2 separate documents. I want to see right there. Here's a sign. This is an injunction right here as far as your leadership here as commissioner. As we feel, at least myself and the Cult of Cornette, and of course my perfidious lawyer, the consigliere of the Cult of Cornette, Mr. Stephen P. New, who has signed those documents. You see it right there. This is an injunction into damages at our expense while you have retained your leadership as commissioner. And this has already been submitted to the ACPW Board of Directors, and they have launched an investigation onto you, Arn Anderson. And Arn's just kind of looking at him going, this is a shakedown. And Cornette's like, oh, no, I'm not finished. Now, take a look at this piece of paperwork. And this one here, you see that one? Now, that one is a class action lawsuit based on your abuse of power here as commissioner. And I've left that open because it turns out I'm not the only one who has a problem with you, Arn. It turns out that there's a lot of people on the roster who think that the actions you've taken, your abuse, your gross overstepping of boundaries as far as what I am able to achieve and what the Cult of Cornette is able to achieve, this conspiracy comes to an end. You left me no choice, Arn. But now, we're going to be investigating and be aware that usually when you get this kind of paperwork, you're not the boss anymore afterwards. And I want this to be clear because you are going to be exposed. And I said this to you a long time ago, Arn. I promised you this was how it's going to be. And as for your match announcements, the Varsity Blondes, in comparison to FTR, don't have a leg to stand on. Believe me on that. As for MJF, you talk good, kid, but you're just that. You're a kid in way over your head. And when it comes to Walter, I just want to make one thing clear, and I'm telling this to you, Arn, because you seem to have the in with these people. You seem to have the preferential treatment, so why don't you tell them and you tell Walter that you should watch what happens with Jeff Cobb tonight when he decimates not one, but 2 poor saps who stepped into his way. You didn't beat Jeff Cobb. You pissed Jeff Cobb off, Walter. And now you're going to get to see the fruits of your labor, and your fruits and will be firmly made into juice as your blood's laid into the mat by Jeff Cobb at Midsummer Showdown. But will you be there, Arn? I'm not so sure. But I'll tell you this, it's good to have backup when you least expect it.
He got to plug into his lawyer and dress down Arn Anderson.
And Arn's looking at the paperwork like, all of a sudden you just see this dread over me. He's like, this is some bullshit. And he gets pissed and he throws the papers down. But then, of course, it goes to commercial after that. So, your thoughts on the latest developments in the Cornette Arn Anderson saga?
So, is Arn Anderson out?
He is being investigated. And Cornette said, expect to hear that you'll be stepping down. Expect not to be in power anymore when this goes through.
Jim Cornette went the legal route. My God. But again, it's a great healing move. Now we have a really interesting thing with Jim Cornette versus Arn Anderson and who they represent and who they like wrestling against each other? Question mark?
You'll see. I've got plans. I got plans, baby. Well,
anyways,
we will see what happens with that, but we got another match. It is FTR versus Man Scout Jake Manning and Pete Dunne.
Why? That's the weirdest mismatched partner set I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, and you know how long this match goes?
2 minutes.
Well, no, I gave it 6 because they're going to beat the teetotal shit out of them. Good night express to Man Scout. There's really no reason to overbook that.
Especially after Man Scout got a win last time.
Yeah. Hey, good for Man Scout. He did it, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be moving up from his position at this point.
Okay, fair.
And I don't want to beat Pete Dunne because I just got him. And I still have plans for Pete Dunne at some point.
Fair
Now we go to Tony Schiavone. As Tony Schiavone says, hello, I'm Tony Schiavone. I'm in the back. And I am here with Walter. Walter, I know you don't usually say much. So I'm just going to ask this question. It's going to be real simple, and you tell me what you feel. You're getting a rematch against Jeff Cobb, who you beat at May Melee, but because of the shenanigans costing you the world title, you are now going up one-on-one with Jeff Cobb instead. Tell us your thoughts. I'll make this short. When you step over your bounds in a place you needn't belong, you get annihilated. Simply put, I won the ACPW Championship, but Jim Cornette and Jeff Cobb think otherwise. And when you fight the unbeatable, you will be beaten. Jeff Cobb, Midsummer Showdown, Orlando, Florida. I take you out back, and I prove to you that I am empirically your superior.
You know, it's really, really amazing. Have you seen the shape that Walter is in?
Yeah, he looks great.
That physique now with Walter, combined with his speaking style, because he likes to speak that slow, but also really, again, he's Austrian, but he speaks with kind of a German accent, but the way he likes using those really, I could see him using the word empirical because that's the way he talks.
Yeah. Yeah. So Walter gets a promo. It's not a huge one, but of course the fans in Philly love Walter. And it's, but we're going to get to see Jeff Cobb because our next match is Jeff Cobb versus Private Party.
Wait, hold on. Is this a handicap match?
It is a handicap match.
Is it going to be one of those things where you let both wrestlers be in at the same time?
Jeff Cobb grabs Mark Quinn just as Isaiah Cassidy goes to grab him. Jeff Cobb grabs Isaiah Cassidy, so he's got both of them in his arms, and he does kind of a modified deadlift power slam onto both of them. 1, 2, 3.
Was that even 10 seconds?
It was 5 minutes of him beating the teetotal shit out of Private Party.
How can you stop that man?
Take Cornette away from him, and Walter did it. But that doesn't mean that he isn't going to lay waste to pretty much everybody except a rare few exceptions. And of course, Cobb does not leave his feet this entire time. You know,
as he shouldn't.
He's not going to bump for Private Party. Are you kidding me?
Now, if this was AEW, the match would be 17 minutes.
Yep.
You would have at least 10 flips.
Yep.
And at least 2 table spots.
That's right. Not today. 5 minutes and Cobb is taking care of business. Every day. Taking care of business. Every way. Taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business and working overtime workout. You get up every morning from the alarm clock's warning, take the 8:15 to the city. Anyway. Anyway.
You should just sing that song as one of your next albums.
I know, but I don't want to get sued. I'd like to not have lawsuits. I don't want to be Arn Anderson there, boyo. Anyway.
What's with the accent?
I don't know. We're halfway through this show. Now, we get that match that's taken care of, and now JR is in the ring and goes, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guests at this time, the Varsity Blondes. And here comes Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. And Jim Ross goes, well, Griff, Brian, this is a really unique situation as you two are one of the few tag teams to pin FTR in the ring, which is a hell of an accomplishment. Everyone's saying that you are the blue chip, you're the tag team of the future. What are your thoughts going into a rematch against FTR Midsummer Showdown? Now, Pillman's going to do most of the talking here.
That's fair because you're not going to have Griff Garrison talk.
No. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. Said, well, we came to ACPW, Jim Ross, because this is where the top tag teams come to prove that they are the best at what they do. The top athletes, the top competitors come here and wrestle for championships, and that's what we're here for, is championships. And eventually, no matter who wins with wrestling's finest and potentially beer money, as I'm here, they're going to be the challengers. I want both teams to keep on lock, because just in case you've forgotten, we're here and we're not going away. It started with beating FTR, and we'll happily beat FTR again. And look, FTR, there's no doubt, is one of the greatest tag teams in the world today, bar none. But I'm not going to be afraid of FTR. Griff and I aren't afraid of FTR. And all these people here in Philly, all the people down in Orlando, and every member of ACPW is going to be there by our sides as we make our legacy stronger, as we prove our legacy stronger by beating the best of the best, as we get one step closer to the ACPW Tag Team Championships, because that's the way that we roll, because the Varsity Blondes are going places, Jim. All you got to do is stand back and enjoy the show.
I'm really disappointed that they haven't done anything with Pillman Jr.
Well, he had that little interaction with MJF, but beyond that, and that was right off the Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring. And they pushed him a little bit after that, and then that was it. And then he went back to just being around. And Pillman Jr., there's something in Pillman Jr. He looks good. His work is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Something you can work on. Garrison is serviceable at what he does, especially under the guidance of a team like FTR. They're proving that they're not afraid of FTR and what they stand for, but also keeping in mind the ultimate directive of winning gold. And this is all athletic contests and combat for that purpose.
Because this is sports, not sports entertainment.
That's right. Now,
I feel like this whole show is just us bitching at AEW and WWE.
I mean, wasn't that the point of the fantasy booking to begin with?
Yeah, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop, especially as the show
right.
quality gets worse.
That's right. Good luck, TV 14. We'll see how it helps, if it helps.
Who knows? Maybe we'll finally get to see Vince McMahon on TV with all his sexual perversions. Oh, wait.
Oh, God. Yeah, who knows? But
except they did that 20 years ago. Shit.
I know.
We should have known.
That doesn't mean they're not going to rehash it, though. But
we should have known.
We all should have known. We all should have known. I think we all did know, but we just didn't say anything about it. Anyway, speaking of respecting women, it is the #1 contenders match this late in the show for the ACPW Women's Championship. It is Serena Deeb versus Dr. Britt Baker, and Dr. Britt Baker comes out with Reba and Jamie Hayter.
Back up.
And Baker is smiling. She's kind of waving, doing her thing. Now remember, Britt Baker is still a babyface at this point. But now she's got her friends there. The way this match goes, how long do you think this match goes?
You got to give it at least 10 minutes.
I gave it 9.
Not even 10 minutes.
Not even 10 minutes, but hey, Kurt Angle...
You must hate women, don't you, Sean?
Well, but remember, one of the best matches that Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio ever had was against each other and was only 9 minutes long. That was Rey's debut in 2002. So, you can get a lot done in 9 minutes.
I guess.
So, the way this match goes is that Britt Baker actually starts doing a little more healing, and Serena fights back and hits Britt with a really nice power slam counter. And when that happens, Reba gets up on the apron, and Serena obviously is trying, sees that Reba is distracting the referee, but Serena is going for the Serenity Lock as Reba gets up on the apron, and as that happens, Jamie Hayter just wrenches Serena's head back and hits her with an inverted DDT, which knocks Serena deep. You can see her arms flail, like knocks her unconscious, so to speak. And then Hayter rolls out, Reba comes down, Britt Baker turns around, puts an arm over Serena. 1, 2, 3. Britt Baker is the #1 contender.
Are we sure she didn't know?
Well, we're going to find out because Jim Ross is in the ring with Britt Baker now, And Jim goes, well, Britt, I mean, congratulations, I think I should say to you. It's hard to give you congratulations, though, Britt, when, we just saw the manipulation it took for you to get that belt and to get that number one contender spot. And Britt Baker goes, let me tell you something, Jim Ross. You know what the most valuable asset in ACPW is? It's not the belts, it's not athletic ability, it's not wearing a big 10-gallon hat and having a southern drawl and being the most respected commentator of all time. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with rioting when your sports team wins a championship like Philadelphia. And it certainly doesn't have anything to do with the fact that Philadelphia will always be at the knees in every sport to the honorable Pittsburgh Steelers.
Boo! Oh, God.
But the most important asset in ACPW is friendship. Isn't that so wholesome, JR? Isn't that so wholesome? Jamie Hayter behind me and Reba are my BFFs. That's right, the DMD has BFFs, and that has changed the game, because the truth is, Jim Ross, I've always deserved this women's championship match. I deserve to be ACPW women's champion because I've been here since the beginning. I was here from the start, and because I am the one who put ACPW women's wrestling on the map, it's now time for the rest of the ACPW women's locker room to pay the respect they're due. So I will be sure that Reba and Jamie, my BFFs, are by my side when I face Shayna Baszler at Midsummer Showdown in Orlando, Florida, because even the Orlando Magic beat the 76ers. And when the Orlando Magic beat the 76ers, then they remember they go to the Flyers, and the Flyers have to stand in awe and remember that Sidney Crosby teacups them on a daily basis.
Wow.
But the fact remains that I am the ACPW number one contender for the Women's Championship, something I've always earned because my strength is in my friends. And not even my cuck of a husband, Adam Cole, is on Midsummer Showdown. Sometimes it takes more than girl power coming from actual girls rather than from my little bitch of a husband. But that's what he wanted, is to be my bitch of a husband. And when I snap my fingers, I get what I want. So Shayna Baszler, look at me real good. And she snaps, and Shayna Baszler starts walking down.
Yay!
And Shayna's
gonna kill you. Shayna's gonna kill you.
And Shayna comes in, and JR says, well, Shayna, and this, of course, there was no music to that. She just walked out. And says, well, Shayna Baszler, the ACPW Women's Champion, you were here. And, of course, a lot of words coming from Britt Baker. And Shayna kind of pushes JR's arm toward her and goes, all right, listen. You've been here the longest. You're right. Congratulations. Does that mean that you're worth shit? No. Does that mean you're worth anything? No. I've beaten women bigger than the three of you combined. And Britt, you've been here the longest, but let's recap what you've done. You came here. You were the side piece, the arm candy to your cuck boyfriend. You got hit with a steel chair. You slapped somebody behind their back. Real noble. Then you win the women's, you come in the next year, you are part of the women's division, and you beat someone who is also a scrawny little nothing in Zelina Vega. The fact is, Britt, you're weak. You've always been weak. You're not a fighter. You're not a wrestler. You're just a model. You're just a dentist. And I'm an MMA fighter. And I will snap dentists in half. I will break every bone in your body because I am the real fighter. I am a real wrestler. And the fact is, Britt, you want to wrestle me? I've got no problem with that. You are no threat to me. You're no concern to me. And bring your little girlfriends. I don't care. I'll make all of them tap out. I'll make sure each and every one of them loses some sort of bone density on some body part, because when you fight me, Britt, there's 3 outcomes. Tap out, pass out, snap out. See you in Orlando.
A lot to unpack there. Where do I start, man? Whew. First things first, we have to address the fact that, of course, Britt Baker is going to be a Yinzer.
Yeah.
Admittedly, that gets real heat, and thank God we have the show in Philadelphia, because Britt Baker is going to get that heat, no problem.
Philly would be notorious for booing everything that Britt Baker said. I mean, saying that Sidney Crosby teacups the Flyers on a daily basis, that'd be enough to piss off some Philadelphia fans, I think.
Well, the thing is that that's also true.
Yeah, it is.
We can discuss that at another time.
Yeah, that's wait for Super Jam Session for that.
Right. But again, Dr. Britt Baker, she gets the heat. I was a little confused that you had her as a babyface, but now I understand why.
Well,
and also just totally just bitch slapping Adam Cole in her promo too.
Well, this is kind of been, what's Adam Cole going to do about it? Nothing.
Exactly. Part of me feels like Shayna Baszler, as good as she is in the ring, she's never had a promo like that. She's never cut a promo quite like that. It's disappointing, because if she could, she easily would be the face of a women's division.
Yeah. You know, I think that, but again, I think part of that is also presentation. You know, she's never cut that promo like that because she's never had the chance. Really. You know, and she did cut decent promos during her NXT run, but I mean, she was biting Becky Lynch's neck when she debuted. What do you want out of her? You know?
It goes back to the whole thing of, you have to present someone 100% consistency all the way through, because even one little thing will either ruin them or make it so that you have to change the gimmick in a way that forces you to do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what this is. Now, this was pretty late on the show. Let me ask you this, because I'm genuinely curious to see how you feel. It's almost a year. As of next week will be a year with the August show since I launched the women's division. How have I been doing?
I think you've been doing pretty well. You had the challenge that because I already started a women's division and I took some of the best talent in women's wrestling at the time, that you've had to kind of build up to the talent that you have and build up the stories, because I already was doing main events with some of my women.
Yep.
Which, by the way, spoiler alerts, the main event of tonight's show for NWL is going to be a women's match.
All right. I like it.
But you have to build up the women's division to be able to get to that point. Had you done it from the beginning, had you said, you know what, the women's title match is going to be the main event, nobody would have bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, I needed the time to get the men over. You know, to get over this, what I was trying to do as far as getting those stars built to be consistent draws, and then the women add to that. You know, they're a complement. They're another piece of the puzzle. But pushing everything all at once is really difficult to do when you're just starting out. Look at AEW and how they were just like, hey, here's everything all at once, and here's all the backstory. It's like AEW is the Kingdom Hearts of professional wrestling. There's literally so much lore and backtext that you don't even understand or know, and they don't even tell you about or give you the links to, or they show it on YouTube.
What they're assuming is that you have played the first Kingdom Hearts and played all the way through in order to understand everything.
Yeah, you played the first Kingdom Hearts and the second and 1.5 and 2.5 and Chain of Memories and 3 broken ballsack memories and whatever it's called. And you played all of those. Literally, Kingdom Hearts 3, I don't mean to sidetrack here, but have you played Kingdom Hearts 3, Sky?
I'm aware of Kingdom Hearts 3, but I didn't play it.
Kingdom Hearts 3 begins with literally going, hey, there's a lot of lore here. Do you want to catch up? And they literally give you 6 books worth of lore to catch you up to what's going on in the story. And I'm like, wow. If you need to put 6 tomes worth of story into your game before the game starts, here, read all this material, and then you can start the game. That kind of shows how bad things have gotten. And
what's that phrase that Josh again always likes to use? I shouldn't have to do homework in order to watch a wrestling program.
Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't have needed to do homework to understand what Kingdom Hearts 3 was doing. But in any event.
But that's the thing, though. Another thing with AEW, use a 30-second or a minute hype package or whatever you call it, or a promo package, telling the history, explaining what's going on, and then we can get it. Not these 3 or 4 or 5 minute meandering promos that you could have shaved down halfway and saved a lot of time for something else.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, now that match is set, we are getting Britt Baker and Shayna Baszler at Midsummer Showdown in Orlando, Florida. So
Which in and of itself is a really interesting match because Shayna Baszler is right. She is a shooter, and she could tie up Britt Baker if she really wanted to. But Britt Baker has the BFFs.
That's right. So
the beautiful, fierce female. No, I'm kidding.
I like that, actually. Anyway.
From TNA.
Oh,
From
right.
TNA.
Right. Never
but
mind.
Hey, to be fair, the beautiful, fierce females in TNA were a really good female stable.
They were. All right. Well, speaking of Impact women.
These transitions today.
Oh, man. So we went to a break, and now we come back, and we've got JR in the ring. He goes, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the ACPW Heavyweight Champion, Cody Rhodes, with Katie Forbes. And Cody...
For a second, I was like, wait, Cody Rhodes wasn't an Impact.
Except he was. As was Katie Forbes.
Was Cody Rhodes in... Oh, yeah.
For a hot cup of coffee. He showed up, wrestled, I think, Alberto El Patron, and then left. Basically.
Yeah. I need to look this up. Hang on.
It was a weird time. So while Skylar's looking that up, comes down the ring, and of course, JR goes, well, oh God. Cody, we heard that tonight we would find out who your opponent is for ACPW's Midsummer Showdown, and yet here we are into the show. Of course, we got one more match later on tonight. That might be it, but of course, I've heard word that you will be the one giving us that information. All of Philadelphia, stand on your feet, then fall to your knees for your world champion.
Boo! Boo! Boo!
Philadelphia is known for trash, Jim Ross, for paupers and for trash, for low-income, miserly cretin who crawl the streets and grease up poles for their city of brotherly love.
Asshole.
And yeah, that's where it goes. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Way to tell on yourselves, Philadelphia. And while you're telling on yourselves, fall to your knees, something you're familiar with, and worship your king. Now, I'm out here for 2 reasons. One, to tout my lovely wife and show off those beautiful assets that Philadelphia couldn't dream of touching. And also to explain to you, Jim, that I'm joining Cornette's class action lawsuit against Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson has proven to me over the past several months that he is really only concerned about one thing. That's his public image. His public image to each and every one of these cretin, because what he wants is to do what's right by the people. But it's so funny that Arn Anderson sits from behind a desk and makes decisions that's best for the people when Arn Anderson hasn't connected with the people since 1992. And I don't feel like he's been treating me as world champion with the respect it deserves, because I made sure that he understood that I am wrestling royalty. And wrestling royalty means that I run things around here. This isn't some British Prime Minister monarch garbage. When the king is in the court stays silent. And when the court stays silent, the king passes judgment. So I'm not wrestling at Midsummer Showdown. Because I'm not wrestling for a man who I don't believe should hold the title to make the matches in the first place. I don't believe that Arn Anderson deserves to hold that title of commissioner anymore. Because the truth is, when you are a world champion, royalty, bloodline, hailing down, passed from the heavens, the son of a plumber has risen above his meager family and become a god. And that means I choose when I defend this belt, where I defend this belt. And it's not happening at Orlando, and it sure as hell isn't happening tonight. But what is happening tonight is I'm getting on a plane and getting the hell out of this scum-filled town. And Arn, your days are numbered. Maybe I'll see you at Midsummer Showdown, but I probably won't. Hail your king.
Boo. Boo. You suck. You suck. You suck.
Well,
that's very funny that you were able to turn asshole against Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, that was great. I'm glad you said that. That was perfect. No, that was definitely perfect. So
it gets heat. Everything Cody does gets heat. And it works as well. And again, I bemoan this. He should have turned heel in AEW.
It would have sold tickets. Genuinely. It would have sold tickets.
But kind of going back to our topic last week about babyfaces who stayed babyface when they should have turned heel. And Cody's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously WWE was like a fresh coat of paint for Cody, so it's a little different. But at the time when AEW was really sick of him and more sick of Brandy, you know, there was an opportunity there to turn heel, and he just didn't. And so, but what do you think of
And by the way, speaking of which, if you want to hear that conversation, please like, share, and subscribe to the Court Martial Podcast and listen to last week's episode. Anyways.
That's right. That is right. And now, what do you think of Cody Rhodes joining in on the class action lawsuit against Arn Anderson?
Well, now Arn Anderson not only has to deal with Jim Cornette, but the person who was his mentee, the person that he was bringing up in life, almost like a second son.
Yeah. Plus,
it's a scumball move by Cody, but it's something he'd do.
Plus, it's the world champion. And the world champion is threatening to no-show on behalf of Arn Anderson. That's not going to sit well with the ACPW board of directors.
No. And that's the thing. Arn hasn't done a bad job, but he may have to step down.
Yeah, just for the investigation itself. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But we've got another match coming up. And so, as of right now, Cody Rhodes is saying he's not defending the belt at Midsummer Showdown. Do you think that he will eventually have an opponent at Midsummer Showdown, or will he not be there?
Given the way that Cody Rhodes has reacted, I would assume that he's just going to take his wife, he's going to go to the nearest vineyard he possibly can and just enjoy the show from there.
He might. We'll have to stay tuned to find out. But up next is the final match of the night. Eli Drake versus Shorty G.
Shorty G fresh off of NWL wrestling program.
Fresh off of NWL wrestling program. He's got a match with Damian Priest at Midsummer Showdown, and he's getting a match in tonight.
I imagine he's going to win.
How long do you think this match goes?
12 minutes.
It goes 13. And what were you going to say just a second ago before I interrupted you?
No, continue.
All right, I shall continue. The finish of this match is Eli Drake makes the comeback. He shoots Shorty G into the corner, and when he charges in with a clothesline, Shorty G slides through his legs, gets a backslide on Eli Drake, puts his feet on the ropes. The referee doesn't see it. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, he needed the win.
It's another win for Shorty G, but it's a cheat win. It gives Eli Drake an out because it's a fuck finish. And ever since And ever since Mickie James beat Marty Bell, it has been heels winning all night.
And heel shitting on Philadelphia while we're doing it.
That's right. So that's you thought Norfolk, Virginia got an ass whooping.
Yeah, Los Angeles has nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Well, then we get to our final segment of the night. It's a confrontation between the Tag Team Champions Wrestling's Finest and the team that is going to be challenging them and laid out the challenge last week for a rematch at Midsummer Showdown, Beer Money. So Beer Money, so JR comes out and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be, we're going to try and keep this civil as best we can. These are, of course, 4 very combustible elements, so let's start by bringing out Beer Money. And Beer Money comes out, and as JR goes, well, and now we're going to bring the other, Bobby Roode just cuts, or James Storm cuts in real quick and says, sorry, Jim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say really quick, when it comes to Beer Money, we respect Arn Anderson, we believe in Arn Anderson, and Arn Anderson isn't going to let this kind of injunction stand. This man's done nothing but stand up for integrity the entire time that ACPW's been around, and as far as we're concerned, he's the man for the job, and I hope that the board of directors sees that too. And JR goes, well, that's a very, very astute point. Thank you for pointing that out. And now we are going to bring out the Tag Champions Wrestling's Finest to discuss the terms of your tag match. And of course, all 3 come out of Wrestling's Finest. That's Cole, or not, that's not Cole. That's O'Reilly, that's Fish, and that's Roddy Strong. And before we continue, what do you think about Beer Money standing up for Arn Anderson?
Well, we had the heel shitting on Arn Anderson, so we needed a couple of baby faces to be in his corner.
Yeah, so that was, so I wanted to get somebody in just to be like, hey, listen, this is some shenanigans. You know, having a babyface team be like, listen, this is some BS. You know, we needed to have at least a little bit of that. And of course, the fans cheer that when Beer Money makes that statement before Wrestling's Finest comes out.
Yeah, because they've been needing something to cheer all night.
Yeah, yes, they have. And so out comes Wrestling's Finest, and Jim Ross goes, well, Beer Money, you were the first to instigate as far as the championship match is concerned, so we'll let you go first, and then we'll let the champions come back. Beer Money says, now listen, we said to the both of you that we're willing to fight you respectfully, with class, 2-on-2. You made sure that didn't happen at May Melee. So tonight, we're going to discuss our terms because we want a matchup with you without Roddy. No more of him. No more of the numbers game. Because you know, if you came up against the man known as Beer Money, more often than not, you end up with your spine busted and your eyes in the storm. And that's not counting the super kick if your jaw's still in your teeth. But now, I want to make sure that you and all these people in the great city of Philadelphia understand.
Yay, pandering.
Understand one very clear thing. We're not spring chickens. We know this. But that makes it even more aggressive for us. That makes it even more that we will go all out, because the more desperate a man gets to win, the less he has to lose. And at this point, there's nothing left for us to lose, because we've already accomplished everything in professional wrestling. And beating you fair and square is just another shot, just another accolade for Beer Money. And then Jim Ross goes, well, and before Jim can even do it, Bobby Fish takes the mic. Goes, fine. We literally, no problem. You want Roddy to stay in the back? Roddy will stay in the back. In fact, Roddy, I'm pretty sure that you have to take care of something with your wife that night, right? You're not going to be there? Roddy's like, yeah. He's like, all right, so there's that. Problem solved. However, if you're going to have a matchup with us fair and square for our belts after we beat you, you can justify it however you want, but we beat you, Bobbert. We beat you, James. And we retain these belts. But you remind us of a couple of people. These two guys not too long ago thought that they were still hot shit, and the crowd called them hot shit, and because Philadelphia doesn't have a brain cell between them, they think you're hot shit. But the fact is, what you really are, Beer Money, is a nostalgia act. And we are going to kill that nostalgia act. If you want to face us with no Roddy at ringside, then you have to put your careers on the line for the main event at Midsummer Showdown. The last ride of Beer Money as you're put down, shut down, and beaten down by wrestling's finest. And then Kyle O'Reilly takes the microphone. You two are the exact epitome of what's wrong with all of these people here in Philadelphia and all over the world. You are sucked in this vortex of nostalgia culture, where everything has to be a remake and a rehash and a reuniting. The only thing that's different between you and the acts of yesteryear is that you're not wearing green and crotch chopping. But you've been back about as many times. And the people want to see you because they remember what you truly were. And make no mistake about it, what you were was great. You were one of the greatest tag teams of all time. But that's just the problem. You are a product of the past. And wrestling's finest are the champions of the future. And we will put you down, we will beat you down, and we will send you packing for the rest of your careers. Because, let's be real, folks, with your age, and make no mistake, this isn't about age, it's about what you represent. And what you represent is what the last two represented. Unimportant DUI magnets. And, of course, James Storm lays a right hand, and it's on. And they start battling, and Jim Ross gets out of there, and, of course, the baby faces come to separate it, but not before Robert Roode does hit a spine buster onto Roddy Strong, and then, of course, O'Reilly and Fish get out of dodge, and Beer Money stand tall, fighting. James Storm gets the beard, starts chugging it, and celebrates with Robert Roode as the show goes off the air. Will this be the last ride of Beer Money? Find out at Midsummer Showdown, and that's the show.
Well then, at least the babyfaces ended on top in this one.
Well, we had to do something to cheer up Philadelphia.
Yeah, because clearly they're going to live their terrible, dirty, insignificant lives in mediocrity.
That's right. But at least they get to cheer.
Promise that'll be the last time I shit on Philly today, okay?
At least they get to cheer Beer Money as they get the advantage of the champions. But what do you think of this stipulation? Another titles versus careers matchup. They already retired the Hardys. Will they retire Beer Money?
Well, Wrestling's Finest is 1-0 in that. Maybe they can become 2-0. They can become the new Legend Killers.
Tag Team Legend Killers. Let's go. So
that'd be really interesting. I like this. I like this because this is taking two of the best tag teams, and they have history, so let's add more to it.
For sure. And I like the idea of having Wrestling's Finest be like, I'm being sick of nostalgia acts. Kind of, because that was sort of the theme as why they didn't like the Hardys as well. So it ties into what they're already going for and what they're doing. And the fact that they're not afraid to face them 2-on-2 so long as they can end the careers. This is going to be worthy of a main event.
It would be worthy of a main event. And it should be the main event in hindsight, because if Cody's not going to wrestle, you need a match like this to be the main event. And this adds a little bit more juice to it.
Absolutely. So would you like to hear, not the entirety of the card, but would you like to hear some of the matches, and then we will move on to the other half of this for the Midsummer Showdown in Orlando, Florida?
Right, because these are the announced matches, and you may have one or two more added on.
That's
just
right.
To, be filler.
That's right. So we have Alexa Bliss with Camille versus Mickie James, Damian Priest versus Shorty G, FTR versus the Varsity Blondes, Shayna Baszler versus Dr. Britt Baker with Reba and Jamie Hayter, Jeff Cobb with Jim Cornette versus Volter, MJF versus Bryan Danielson with Jim Cornette. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar in a no time limit match. And Wrestling's Finest, Titles versus Career versus Beer Money.
A very worthy amount of matches. This is going to be really interesting.
Well, thank you, sir. I think that we've got ourselves quite a show going on, but I am not alone in shows and in developments because we have a World Cup to go through.
Yes, we do. Now, give me 1 second. Let me just get something together. And you know what? After listening to that show, do we want to talk about the music?
Oh, well, see, the thing is that ACPW was such music to your ears that maybe you're going, well, maybe I need something to keep the vibe going, keep the party going, keep that energy and excitement going. And there is something that I can give to you, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It is summertime and the summer heat is sweltering. But there is nobody who is better at beating the heat than AB Production CT. AB Production CT combines a variety of styles, including hip-hop, R&B, jazz, funk, EDM, and so much more, with two industry-busting artists in the form of White Knux, spelled W-H-I-T-E, space, K-N-U-X, and Abizzle, spelled A-B-I, say it with me, folks, double Z-L-E. And they have put out over 100 songs and projects, including Mixed Bag, Retreat, Recovering, The Wax Apocalypse, Bear Men, Mixed Bag, soon to be Mixed Bag 2, soon to be the Just a Bit More, and right now you can catch the first song, the single from Just a Bit More, Live as One, in the description. You got a betrothed, you feeling like you're the part of the love that is bringing the world together. That's the kind of song you need. Keep it upbeat. Get yourself a little dancing in. You can beat the heat. The summertime is where the beach is, and there's nothing better to satisfy your beaches and peaches of any variety. So take that as it will. Come join the entertainment revolution with AB Production CT.
And if you don't listen to that music, Sean will shit on your hometown.
Maybe. It's not necessarily correlated. If you're on the East Coast and you don't listen to the music, there's a possibility. But I don't want it to just be part of the United States or just the East Coast. It's a global effort. And what is more apropos of a global effort than a World Cup? NWL, it's the next round. Skylar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and welcome back to the NWL World Cup Series. Now, last month's show, we had a main event of AJ Styles and Sami Zayn, and I figured while that was good and I could feature another World Cup match, I decided to put a title match instead as the main event, and also to give this woman a little bit of shine. So the NWL Women's Championship will be the main event. Bianca Belair versus Bayley.
Oh, that ought to be good.
Yep. And the whole thing is that Bianca, in her last promo, said, I've tricked the devil twice. The devil referring to beating Charlotte and beating Sasha. Now she's going to go try and beat the third horsewoman.
Well, we'll see how she does tonight in the main event.
Yep. Now, we have 11 matches, so we need to machine gun through these.
Oi.
Yep. The first matchup is a preliminary show matchup. It is Jade Cargill versus Naomi.
Good win, Jade.
You don't give Naomi a chance?
Do you give Naomi a chance?
Absolutely not. 4 minutes.
There you go.
Now, quick note. Jade Cargill is celebrating. She's posing. She's doing whatever. She leaves the ring. She's going up the stage. Nikita Lyons' music hits, and she stares a hole through Jade Cargill and gives her a power shove. And Jade's not backed a little bit, but she starts smiling and laughing as Nikita Lyons is making her entrance.
Huh. So a little tension there between the two, but nothing
Right,
that's come to serious blows yet.
Because remember, Jade Cargill did the exact same thing last month to Nikita Lyons.
That's
so
right.
Nikita is returning the favor.
That's right.
Next match, Nikita Lyons versus Ty Conti.
Oh, boy.
Now, to be fair, I'm going to give this an 8-minute match, but Nikita still wins.
Fair play.
I like Ty Conti, but at this point, she's a mid-card woman. She's still young. She still has time to develop, but she's not a priority.
She's got time to develop, but she needs to develop.
Yeah. But are you interested in a future Jade Cargill-Nikita Lyons matchup?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I don't know if either of the two of them are particularly great at working. So it's intriguing, but I don't know what kind of quality that match is going to be. It's a very interesting pairing.
It wouldn't be a very good match, but it's almost kind of sold on their bodies.
True.
I know that's kind of... It's a little bit sleazy, but that's kind of the truth.
Hey, man. You can't be as sleazy as the people who are actually running the show.
That's true. Now we're going to begin the main show. And we're going to begin the first of 8 World Cup Series matches. Round 1. The first match, representing the United States of America, Xavier Woods versus, representing the United States of America, Rex Steiner.
All right, so this is another pairing from this tag team feud that we've gotten of late.
Yep, Kofi Kingston is at ringside. So is Dominic Guerrero. No Austin Theory as of yet.
Got it.
This match will be a 10-minute match. Xavier does get the advantage at the beginning. Rex Steiner does get a little bit of an advantage because he's too big and too strong, and he catches Xavier. And he starts beating him down. Xavier makes his comeback. As he makes his comeback, he's trying to go for his finisher. He's going for a Shining Wizard to set up for Eat the Feet. Dominic Guerrero grabs his foot. And, of course, Xavier is not happy about this. The ref's not happy about it. Kofi Kingston flies over and attacks Dominic Guerrero. While this is happening, the referee is telling both of them to stop. Xavier grabs Rex Steiner. Here comes Austin Theory from the crowd. Hit the chop block on Xavier. And Xavier has to grab his leg. The referee comes back. Rex Steiner, camel clutch, Steiner recliner, and Xavier Woods has to tap out.
Oh, man. The numbers game hits again. But I like that Theory doesn't just come down the ramp. You know, that he actually just comes through the crowd instead, you know, so that at least adds to the spontaneity of the action.
Right. I could have done it where he was there, but then it kind of would be like, yeah, you would expect it to come.
Understood.
Yep. At least at this one, it's kind of planned that maybe they were going to do it. Anyways, next matchup. Representing Canada, Kevin Owens versus representing Canada, Tyler Breeze.
Well, I like Tyler Breeze, but
he's not getting pushed over Kevin Owens.
This is not Tyler Breeze's time to shine.
No, 5-minute match, Kevin Owens wins.
Yeah, kind of saw that coming.
Yep. So now we're going to begin hyping up the next match, Jon Moxley versus Chris Sabin. And what is this? Some music is hits. And here comes Roman Reigns.
Okay.
So Roman Reigns makes his entrance, goes to ringside, grabs a chair, and sits down. And apparently he has some interest in the following proceedings.
All right. He's not joining commentary. He's just sitting down and watching.
Yep. So, Roman Reigns is sitting down. Jon Moxley is making his entrance along with Seth Rollins. And as they get to the ramp, here come the Usos and Jacob Fatu. And it is a full-on assault of Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins.
Oh, no.
Referees are trying to get in, and Jacob Fatu starts swatting them away. And the Usos grab Jon Moxley. They throw him head first into the ring post. Jacob Fatu grabs Seth Rollins, puts him in the gorilla press, and then throws him into the barricade, but specifically lands his knee into the top of the barricade.
Oh, no.
And finally, more security, and Kurt Angle has arrived, and they've shooed out Jacob Fatu and the Usos. Roman Reigns gets up from where he's sitting down and is smiling, walks over to where John and Seth are and looking at them, and starts laughing, and then gives a little kick to Jon Moxley on his way out, as Jon Moxley is bleeding from the forehead.
Just when we said that Jon Moxley... Just when we made the joke about Jon Moxley at the beginning of the program needing to bleed every time he comes out, here comes Jon Moxley bleeding from the head after an assault by the Usos and Jacob Fatu. I love it. I love the continuity. No, this is what Roman Reigns promised. He is a man of his word.
He's a man of his word, and I just find it funny that he gave a little kick, but otherwise he was just watching like a mafia boss.
That's what he wanted. He wanted to sit and watch the proceedings, and boy did he.
Yep. Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins have to be helped to the back. Seth Rollins is hobbling on one leg. Jon Moxley is still bleeding from the forehead. And we can't do the match with Chris Sabin. So we're going to skip to the next match.
So, does that mean Chris Sabin just advances?
Hang on.
Okay. Stay tuned. I like stay tuned.
Next matchup. It is representing the United States of America, Richard Holiday, versus representing England, Drake Maverick.
Intriguing.
I'm going to give this 8-minute match. I'm going to give Richard Holiday the win.
Fair enough.
I like Rockstar Spud, but he's a jobber.
But nah. Yeah, I understand.
He's an entertaining jobber, but he's a jobber.
Jobber nonetheless. Yes.
Yeah, and I need to give Richard a win.
Yeah, especially considering that he was taking falls for the Dynasty. You know, you got to build him back up a little bit.
Yep. Now, we're going to go backstage to Kurt Angle, who, of course, has his arms folded. And Kurt Angle says, well, everybody, as you saw, Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins were attacked heinously by the Usos and Jacob Fatu. And I promise there will be retribution with Roman Reigns after tonight's show. With that in mind, I've spoken to both Jon and Seth. They have both received major injuries. Jon Moxley has a contusion in his head. Seth Rollins has a major knee injury. And both men still want to compete for their matches. So we're going to reschedule their matches, but they will happen tonight. Jon Moxley versus Chris Sabin, and Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
So we're just getting them later in the show. All right. So be it.
What kind of condition will both of those men be after being assaulted by Roman Reigns thugs?
Not great, I'll tell you what. Not great.
Nope. Yep. And speaking of those thugs, here comes Jimmy Uso representing Samoa versus Drew McIntyre representing Scotland.
We finally got to get some sort of bloodline loss here.
Right. Now, very clearly, Jey Uso is outside with Jimmy watching this match. Jacob Fatu isn't there. So it's just Drew McIntyre versus Jimmy with Jey on the outside.
Mono e duo, but still kind of...
Mono e Uso.
That's right. There you go.
But you want to know how this match starts?
How does this match start?
It starts with Drew McIntyre choosing to go outside the ring, and Jimmy Uso is looking at like, what's going on? Drew McIntyre makes a full charge and hits Jey Uso with a Claymore kick.
Oh, jeez. Oi.
And then he proceeds to grab him and throw him into the crowd.
There you go. Take out the trash.
Drew McIntyre gets into the ring. Jimmy Uso tries to get on top of him. Jimmy, he's punching him. He's got him in the corner. Drew McIntyre, one gut punch. Jimmy backs up a little bit. Drew grabs Jimmy Uso, hits the spine buster, picks him up, throws him around with a beetle. Drew is not having it at all tonight. Drew picks him up, hits him with another suplex, hits him with another suplex, hits him with a third suplex, gets him in position in the middle of the ring, Claymore kick, cover, 1, 2, 3.
Drew is a Scot looking for revenge.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And this was a good way to do that.
There was no chance Jimmy Uso had against Drew. I love Jimmy, but there's no chance.
No, not on this day.
Especially when Drew took out Jey Uso.
Yeah. that was the kiss of death.
Yep. And speaking of kiss of death, we have Jon Moxley versus Chris Sabin, both representing the United States of America. Jon Moxley now has a bandage on his head, and it's still a little like pink. You can see some blood still coming out.
Yeah.
So this is a 9-minute match. Chris Sabin is not necessarily a heel in this match. He's just doing the babyface thing of trying to win, but inadvertently some of his punches do hit Jon in the head. And of course, when they hit Jon in the head, he's going to bleed a little bit more.
Yeah.
And Jon Moxley's doing his best. He's doing his best, but eventually he gets tired because he's lost so much blood. He goes for his DDT. Chris Sabin is actually able to get out of it, hits John Moxley with a super kick, goes to the second rope, hits a picture-perfect moonsault, and not the moonsault that Charlotte does, where she lands on her feet, but where Chris Sabin actually lands on him.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And Chris Sabin with the cover, 1, 2, 3.
Wow. I mean, it's tough because it's a weakened John Moxley, but I mean, it does make Chris Sabin honestly look really good and give him a little boost shot in the arm as he goes up. But really, the story is more that Moxley just could not be 100% for that match. And now what does that mean in regards to what he's going to be thinking going up with the bloodline really to blame?
Right. And then the next match is representing Japan, Shinsuke Nakamura, versus representing the United States of America, Seth Rollins.
Oh, boy.
And remember, Seth Rollins, knee injury.
Yeah.
When he's walking, he's hobbling.
Yeah.
He can't really put pressure on his right leg. And Shinsuke, again, is a babyface, and he's not necessarily trying to cheat, but you have to take advantage of the injury.
That's not necessarily cheating. That's just being advantageous in the ring.
Yeah. And it's a 12-minute match. Every time Seth Rollins does something with his leg, his right leg, he can't quite get full power behind it. Shinsuke is working him down. Seth Rollins makes a comeback, but the second he hits a super kick on Shinsuke with his left leg, he's off balance and he falls and he actually doesn't connect with Shinsuke. This allows Shinsuke to go off the ropes and hit a Kinshasa for the cover 1, 2, 3.
Damn. You hate to see it. But again, the bloodline making sure that things go the way that they want it to. And namely Roman Reigns. Because when Roman Reigns says he's going to do something, and when Roman Reigns wants something, most of the time he's getting what he wants.
Right. Now, Kurt Angle, of course, has promised retribution after this show, because he's wrestling too.
That's right.
But our next match, representing the United States of America, Tommaso Ciampa, versus representing the United States of America, Johnny Gargano.
This ought to be good.
Yep. This is a 15-minute match. It is the longest match on the show.
All right.
And this match is not necessarily that Johnny is beating Tommaso, but more so that Tommaso is beating himself. There's something off with Tommaso Ciampa. Like, he wants to win, but he doesn't want to hurt Johnny. So you can tell he's pulling his punches. He still gets the advantage in the beginning because he's stronger.
Right.
Johnny does get an advantage. But then at some point, Tommaso just starts, kicking him and kneeing him and slamming him around, suplexing him around. And Johnny is hanging on and just hanging on. And every time Tommaso makes a cover, Johnny kicks out. And Tommaso is getting frustrated by this. He can't put him away. The finish is that Tommaso is going to go for the last shot. And he grabs his knee pad and he's going to pull it down to expose his bare knee. But then there's a little bit of hesitation because he sees Johnny's kind of out of it. His eyes are glazed over. And Tommaso just can't do it. So he takes his knee pad and puts it back up. He still goes for the last shot, but Johnny gets out of the way and does a quick schoolboy roll-up 1, 2, 3.
Wow. Anything further after the matchup?
Well, Johnny wins, but he can't really stand on his feet. Tommaso is shocked. He asks the referee if that was 3. He's disappointed. He starts slapping the mat. Johnny can't get to his feet. The referee has to help him. And Tommaso grabs Johnny's other arm and lifts him up too. And they both help Johnny to the back.
So maybe this friendship is actually starting to mend properly. After all of that, I mean, the fact that Ciampa's still going to, humble in defeat, help Johnny to the back, even though Johnny won. Interesting. Definitely interesting, because there's still more between the two of them, and you know it. But it's looking like right now things are better between the two of them. Maybe they just needed to fight it out.
Just get all their aggression
Get it out of their system. Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of system, we had the final match of the NWL Cup World Series Round 1. Kurt Angle versus Pat McAfee.
Well, this
Now
ought to be interesting.
Yep. Now, Kurt Angle, of course, makes his entrance to the ring in full outfit as the crowd chants, "You suck, you suck," because they're marks.
Because it's Kurt Angle.
Yep.
And
now,
you suck, the only context where you suck is a sign of affection.
Yep. But Kurt Angle is waiting in the middle of the ring, and Pat McAfee comes out on top of the stage with Eric Bischoff, because remember, Pat McAfee is part of Eric Bischoff's stable.
That's right.
Even if it is kind of a loose alliance. But Pat McAfee is on crutches, and he has a case. He has a, what do you call it? A cast around his left leg.
All right. Uh-oh.
And Eric Bischoff has to hold the microphone for Pat McAfee, and Pat McAfee says, I'm really sorry. As you can see, I've hurt myself in training.
Boo.
And I just can't wrestle. This is such a tragedy.
Boo.
God's greatest creation, my leg, has been significantly injured. And I can't perform for you wonderful people. Please, everybody, cry for me. Cry for me.
Boo! You suck. You suck. Like, actually suck. You suck.
And it's just unfortunate. And I was really looking forward to kicking your ass, Kurt Angle, but I just can't do it. Not with this injury. And it was that I must pull out of the World Cup. And of course, this gets cheered.
You pulled out. You pulled out. You pulled out. You pulled out. You pulled out.
You can stop now. It gets the cheers. But Pat McAfee says, however, there is a bylaw that exists in the World Cup rules. Because I am injured, I'm allowed to select a replacement for myself in this tournament to represent me. And I know this man will represent me and represent all of you in the best way possible. He is the almighty Bobby Lashley.
Oh, man. As soon as you said that Pat McAfee had a cast on, I knew this is where this was headed. Oh, God. Poor Kurt. This is going to hurt. Call him Hurt Angle.
Yep. So Eric Bischoff and Pat McAfee both walk to the ring along with Bobby Lashley. The match starts, collar and elbow tie-up, and Bobby Lashley just throws off Kurt Angle. They do a second collar and elbow tie-up. Bobby Lashley throws him off again. And Bobby Lashley starts smiling. She starts posing for the Kurt Angle. And then Bobby Lashley proceeds to turn around and tells Kurt to German him.
What?
Kurt Angle grabs Bobby Lashley and tries to German him. And Bobby Lashley starts laughing because Kurt can't lift up Bobby Lashley. So Bobby takes his arms, breaks the grip. Then he goes around to Kurt Angle with a standing side switch and Germans him.
Ow.
Kurt Angle is getting up to his feet. Bobby Lashley grabs him, hits a release German suplex, and Kurt goes flying. I mean, flying across the ring.
Ow.
Bobby Lashley picks up Kurt Angle, hits a power slam in the middle of the ring, and then Bobby Lashley gets up, and even though he's wearing trunks, he makes the motion for the straps to go down. He grabs Kurt Angle's ankle, his left leg, and does the ankle lock.
Oh,
and Kurt Angle has to tap out.
Damn, the disrespect. Bobby Lashley just giving him the Kofi Kingston treatment.
And let's make this even better, because Bobby Lashley, once the match is over, he doesn't release the ankle lock. In fact, he does the grapevine, which is even worse.
Oh no!
And of course, the referee's trying to shove him off. Kurt Angle is crying in agony and pain, and Bobby Lashley finally releases him when Eric Bischoff tells him to stop. And Eric Bischoff lifts Bobby Lashley's hand in the air, and Pat McAfee is celebrating. He's celebrating so much that he accidentally puts weight on his left leg. And then he starts to walk around, and then he realizes he can walk. And Bobby Lashley grabs the cast of Pat McAfee and pulls it off. And Pat McAfee just taps his leg and starts walking around. He grabs his crutch and hits Kurt Angle in the back. And again. and again. And then he uses the other crutch again and again and again and breaks the crutch over Kurt Angle's back.
Oh, no.
And now the three of them, Eric Bischoff, Bobby Lashley, and Pat McAfee, raise their arms in the air like douchebags.
Boo! Boo! Somebody get some EMTs kicked. Somebody get some medical.
Please.
We need medical.
Okay, anyways. Point is that Bobby Lashley is beating Kurt Angle. What do you think of that whole piece of business?
Well, it's going to be interesting because the only person who can actually do anything about it is Kurt, and he's the one who's getting the shit kicked out of him. So, you know, it's not like he could come out and reverse the decision because Kurt, as you know, he knows the World Cup rules. And so this is a really interesting development. I knew you had to shoehorn Bobby Lashley in somehow, and this was obviously going to be the way to do it. Now, the interesting thing is Bobby Lashley going to be competing next week? Or is it going to be Pat McAfee, considering that Pat could probably be like, well, I won, you know, you beat Kurt Angle, so now I can, you know, now I'm good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens between those two.
Well, let's have an answer, shall we? Because we're going to do the second round draw right here, right now.
Who's going to do it? Kurt Angle's broken.
Nope, it just appears on the Titantron.
I was going to say Kurt Angle lips up. All right, here's the second round. It just cranks the wheel.
No. What is it? It's the commentators that are doing it. It's the commentators that are doing it.
Oh, man. That'd be a hell of a plot twist. Is that Kurt Angle gets the teetotal shit kicked out of him and then just, like, crawls up and he's like, well, I'm still general manager. I'm in a lot of pain, but we got a second round to do, so... Let's
imagine they hand him a microphone and he does it while he's laying on the ground.
I know. All right. Who's next? Ow. All right. I'm sorry, Sky. Continue. Round 2.
But no, these matchups will appear on the screen of the Titantron, and I trust you people. These have been randomized. Wink.
We believe you.
Wink.
We believe you.
The first match of the second round, and I'm not doing the ball drop sound, so screw you, Joshua.
Blunk.
But anyways, is Bobby Lashley versus Chris Sabin.
That's former TNA World Champion Chris Sabin to you.
Yeah, but he's the Cinderella because he's got to wrestle Bobby Lashley.
But he gonna die.
He gonna die. Next match, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Richard Holiday.
Interesting pairing. I would imagine I know who's going to win that, but I could be surprised.
Yep. Next matchup, Jacob Fatu versus Johnny Gargano.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Yep. Next matchup, Rex Steiner versus Alexander Hammerstone.
Oh man. Now that's a match worthy of a main event.
That's the thing, is that the second round, all the matches get so much better.
Yeah, they definitely stack up very well.
Next one, Kofi Kingston versus Austin Theory.
Appropriate. Definitely appropriate. Also
Next
should be a
matchup.
good match.
Yeah, it would. Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso.
Oh, no.
I don't like the odds for Mr. Uso there.
Drew that's main event Jey Uso to you.
Well, he's going up against a main event player.
That's right. That's right. Should be interesting.
Next one. Keith Lee versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs.
Oh, man. It's funny because they've actually had interaction recently, very recently, on AEW, and I would have to imagine that match wouldn't be bad, but I don't know if it would be spectacular. It'd be interesting to see how that went down.
But here's the thing I'm pissed off about, is that AEW promoted this match, had basically Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Will Hobbs interrupt a couple of Keith Lee promos, and then they did that match, as Keith Lee's second or third match with hardly any promotion?
Yeah. Yeah, that's AEW.
But here's the thing. Now I have a whole month to promote it on TV, and I can have this be a second round matchup in a World Cup tournament. Stakes on top of promotion.
That's right. And that's the key.
It's just throw two guys out there. No, you have to have a reason why the two guys are being thrown out there.
Well, and that's the other thing too. It's like, even with a tournament, the tournament itself is just a framing device, you know, but adding context to why the tournament is taking place beyond the fact that it's just a tournament is a big reason why tournaments work. So having some sort of story relating to these two and how these two would be, you know, having interaction with each other beyond just what has gone down lately with the Almighty Crew, you know, this is the kind of situation that you can give layers to people through this tournament because of this tournament, and it actually ends up building a lot of people in a different way, but also in the process.
Right, because again, Keith Lee has basically been harassed by Eric Bischoff for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff has been trying to get Keith Lee to join him, and then he couldn't do it, and he said, you know what? No one spurns me. I'm going to destroy you with my army of giant men who will destroy you. And so far that hasn't worked, but Powerhouse Bullhouse is a different animal.
That's right. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. A nice second round matchup.
Yep. And then the last second round matchup, AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens.
Those two have a history. That should be pretty darn good.
Yep. Again, the second round matchups all, at the very least, are higher up, and they're a little bit more interesting, especially because now everybody's had a win.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a thinner crop, but it's a more talented crop. Most of the time.
Most of it. Now, we go on to the main event, and the video package for Bianca Belair versus Bayley. And of course, this promotes their history. Bayley wrestling against Bianca Belair multiple times. Bayley trying to prove that the Horsewomen are the greatest women's wrestlers of all time and reclaiming the world title. And Bianca saying that she is not going to give up the title that she worked her entire life for that easy. She's beaten 2 of the Horsewomen. She's going for the 3rd.
And I'll bet you she'll win it. Maybe.
We'll see. I actually was incorrect about Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano being the longest match. This is the longest match. 18 minutes.
Well, it is your main event.
And I want to be very, very clear. There are no other Horsewomen with Bayley.
Okay. I like
So-
that. Going it alone.
The match starts slow with Bianca Belair and Bayley. Of course, they do the Colorado tap. They do a little bit of chain wrestling. And it's very evident early on that Bianca is a little bit stronger and just a little bit faster. And Bayley, you know, has to take a powder. Bianca grabs her, rolls her back in. Bayley rolls to the other side of the ring because she still wants to keep the powder going.
Yep.
Bianca goes to the other side. As she reaches for Bayley through the ropes, Bayley grabs Bianca's hair and pulls her down through the ropes onto the ground.
Oh,
headfirst.
ow. Ow.
Yep. Bayley grabs her hair, twists it around the ring post, and then uses it to pull her hair and Bianca into the ring post.
Also, ow.
Yep. Bayley gets Bianca back into the ring, starts grinding her down. Bianca gets a couple of charge ups every once in a while, gets a few punches before Bayley hits her in the head or hits her with her hair. Bayley is taking advantage of Bianca's hair, which is normally a weapon for Belair to use.
Right, but Bayley, and this is kind of what happened when they actually did wrestle, is that I thought Bayley was the most unique when it came to hair spots with Bianca and using that, you know, having that mane be a disadvantage as well as an advantage.
Yep. And Bayley is taking advantage of Bianca. Bianca finally is able to get a little bit of separation, and she decides to take her hair and put it in a braid, basically wrapping it around itself so it's not loose and hanging around.
Yep.
So now Bayley has no hair to use. Bianca starts making her comeback, drop kick, another drop kick, grabs her, does the snake eyes thing into the ring post that, you know, Undertaker does.
Yep.
Then grabs her from behind. A hideous German, like a foul-sounding German that Bianca does to Bayley. And Bianca grabs Bayley, lifts her up in the torture rack, gets her in the torture rack. Bayley is crying out in pain. Here comes a horsewoman, Becky Lynch, to the ring apron side area. The referee, of course, tells Becky to get off. Bianca immediately lets go of Bayley and charges at Becky and tackles her down. And Bayley tries to roll up Bianca. Bianca kicks out of it. As Bianca kicks out of it, her hair comes loose. Bayley tries to go for the hair. Bianca grabs it, pulls it away from Bayley. And as Bayley falls to the ground, Bianca lifts the hair above her head, hair whips at Bayley on the ground. And she's hair whipping Bayley in the ground multiple times.
Ow. It's like a built-in belt whipping.
Yep.
Like
Becky
a government mule.
Yep. Becky Lynch gets back on the ring apron, and now Charlotte and Sasha are there too. And Bianca uses the hair whip on Charlotte, and Charlotte goes down. She does it on Sasha. Sasha goes down. She goes for Becky. Becky dodges it, but she clearly can't do anything. Bianca grabs Bayley and goes for the KOD, but before she does it, she positions herself to look at Becky and with one arm points at her and says, "You're next." Then she hits the KOD on Bayley. Cover 1, 2, 3.
Wow. Now that's how you make a babyface strong. Take notes, Hulk Hogan. Single-handedly hulking up against the horsewoman. Hulk didn't have the hair. He was balding. He didn't have the hair.
I know. If he could have gotten those golden luscious locks into hair whip,
yeah,
Hulk Hogan would be undefeated.
Yeah, he never would have lost ever. Because, I mean, he's like Samson. He lost his hair, and then he, started saying things he shouldn't have about his daughter's boyfriend, and it's just a bad time. They start lying about everything. And all because he didn't have the hair.
Yep. Now, very quickly, Becky Lynch does get into the ring. Bayley has rolled out. And Charlotte and Sasha can't join because, of course, they got hit by the hair whip, too. So Bianca grabs her hair and starts swinging it. Becky looks at Bianca, smartly backs out, but before she does, she makes the belt motion. And, of course, Bianca says, "Come on." Becky, of course, gets out, and the two stare at each other as we go off the air.
So we have got one more. After the horsewomen started taking out members of the women's division, Bianca Belair is single-handedly kicking the behinds of the horsewomen, and Becky's next. That ought to be great. We've got the second round of the tournament, which is great. We've got Roman Reigns just being Michael Corleone, which is great. There's a lot of development here as far as there's a lot of payoff in this show, but there's also a lot of development. So you're still keeping things at a very good pace where some things are ending and others are beginning. And I really do like that, given that this is not necessarily like a major show, because we have what was the September show, the major September show, which was the Hart Foundation Cup, might be something different now.
Well, it would be the quarterfinals of the NWL World Cup.
So so that's going to be pretty huge. Obviously, and there'll be title matches with that, and that's going to be a pretty big show. And so this is a great way to just keep things rolling and keep things logical, which is always nice, because you don't necessarily get that from modern wrestling as it is. So well done, Sky. This was a good show.
The one thing I kind of fear is that I am making Bianca a little bit too strong.
Well,
I think
it's hard because given her reactions as a babyface, I think you could get away with it. I don't think it's pushing her down people's throats, considering the way that she's been built.
The one thing is that in order to make Bianca Belair the real, true heir babyface of the company, she has to be able to beat all the horsewomen. Because the only other woman that can really say that she's on her level is Toni Storm. Like, even she couldn't beat the horsewomen. Yeah.
And so now we've got Becky Lynch, and Becky and Bianca certainly have a history. So that ought to be very good.
Plus, I think the only other way, because Bianca has the hair whip, the only other way other women could actually keep the horsewomen at bay is with weapons. But Bianca, her hair is a weapon. But it's a legal weapon.
Because it's part of her body. Wink.
Yep.
And that's... so we've got a lot going on in ACPW and NWL. And it's going to be very interesting to see how both of these shows progress. Of course, Midsummer Showdown next month in August. And, of course, the second round of the NWL World Cup next month in August. Next week, folks, as we set to wrap things up, we have got our pay-per-view review. And I have chosen the original Clash of the Champions, the NWA show. So we're going to go back in time and we're going to watch an old classic. And we're going to see how we feel. I believe, if I'm thinking of the right show, that this is the show where Sting and Flair go an hour Broadway, but we will have to see to find out. But I'm pretty sure it is, and I'm pretty sure it's a pretty darn good match. So stay tuned for that. That ought to be fun. Skylar, terrific job today with NWL as we head towards our first commercial break.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the next show because this is going to be the first time I've actually watched Clash of Champions.
Yeah, this ought to be good. I watched this several years ago, but I'm always up for a refresher. And folks, I also have to mention that next week, I am actually going on the 23rd to a WWE live event. It is not a Raw or a SmackDown. It's just a live event, and that is going to be a very interesting time, and you will be hearing myself and Abizzle returns to the show to give his recounting of the matches. But Skylar, it's a little different this time because I'm going to be at the show and you're going to be on this show. So you can ask all your questions.
I have to listen to your reaction to it.
Yes. So we need somebody to keep us steady. We need someone to keep the ship steady. And Skylar, that will be your show where you will get to ask us all the questions about said live event and how it all broke down.
Now,
and if
where is the live event actually happening?
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport? Oh
Bridgeport.
My goodness.
So
Bridgeport, Connecticut.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be definitely an interesting show. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. But folks, the only way you're going to know how we react to that show and how we all are going to react to the original Clash of Champions is if you like, you share, you subscribe, you switch that bell button to all, so then every time we post, you get to know about it. That's the way it gets done. Until then, folks, we will see you next week. But right now, we have to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back right after this.